People trying to make it seem like you diss Bronx drill. Like,
nah, I ain't diss Bronx drill.
Or you were
I'm saying like Bronx drill originated in Brooklyn. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay. It's like the Brooklyn rappers, we still up and coming too, kind of, sort of like. You feel me? So it's like it's Brooklyn drill. Y'all just from the Bronx.
Bronx drill is different because
tell me how it's different.
It's our own wave, and we not scared. We wasn't scared to say certain like.
What you mean? Give me an example.
Like it's in Brooklyn. Everybody be saying don't say this, don't say that. But the Bronx, it's just hectic. Like you know that you can feel that in the music.
From your perspective, Sheff G, where do you feel the drill music scene is right now, like this second? How do you see it?
How do I see the drill movement? It's spectacular, you heard? It's sturdy. Everything is lit. It's energy. You know what I'm saying? It's the energy. There's no other energy like that drill music.
For the past couple of years, New York has been the center of the drill world, and the majority of the music has been coming from two boroughs in particular, Brooklyn and the Bronx. Brooklyn started the movement, but the Bronx took over and kept it alive when Brooklyn died down. This channel has covered the story on both of these movements, so if you haven't seen these videos, go check them out. Each borough has done their thing when it comes to putting on for New York, but to this day, there's an ongoing debate about which one's better. So in this video, we'll break down the differences between these two movements across multiple categories and try to find the winner of Brooklyn versus Bronx drill. Side note, this video is about the peak era of Brooklyn drill from 2017 to 2020 versus Bronx drill from 2020 to 2023. Now the first category is rapping. By rapping, I mean putting together words, flows, rhyme schemes, occasional wordplay, and everything else associated with what people refer to as bars. It's 2023 and people don't care about this nearly as much as in the past, but it is still a small part of New York drill. The genre is far from lyrical, but it's far from mumble rap as well. And when it comes to actually rapping, this is a category that the average New York drill rapper does better than the average Chicago one. As far as Brooklyn versus the Bronx, most of the heaviest hitters in this category come from Brooklyn and include people like Yus Gz, Sheff G, Sleepy Hollow, and Coach the Ghost. Most Bronx drill rappers don't really focus on this aspect as much. One example of a Bronx drill rapper who does is Lee Drilly, but for the most part, the top Brooklyn drill rappers are beating basically any rapper in the Bronx when it comes to textbook rapping ability. So this category goes to Brooklyn. When it comes to production, both scenes have iconic beats, but the Brooklyn scene was heavily dominated by Axel and 808 Mello. And both of them are great producers, but when the entire borough gets their beats from two people, things get a little repetitive. The Bronx drill scene has brought more excitement. War and Elvis Beats were the leaders, but there was a wider variety of producers, and the popularization of samples was one of the best things to ever happen for the Bronx. Shawnee Bin Laden was on the sample sound before them, but because it was something the whole borough started doing, the samples gave them their own style and distinguished Bronx drill from the UK, which is something Brooklyn never did. The samples also got really creative, from pop to reggae to Spanish to older hip hop songs. It kept people's attention to see what producers would sample next. Literally no one in a million years ever thought they would hear rappers talking about spinning blocks over the Gangnam style melody, so this category goes to the Bronx. For this category, I mean the originality of rappers. It's already been established that the Bronx had more original production. There's a common misconception out there that Brooklyn drill rappers took everything from UK drill, but this isn't true. They only took beats. If you haven't seen this channel's video on the story of Brooklyn drill, go check it out because it explains everything in more detail. But to summarize, New York rappers didn't listen to UK rappers, they listened to Chicago rappers, and UK producers made the best type beats titled after these Chicago artists. Brooklyn rappers took these beats and created their own style that was clearly different from Chicago. Most of the flows and ad-libs that New York rappers are known across the world for today were started by Brooklyn drill pioneers. Yus Gz and Sheff G both came out with their own unique styles and played a big role in establishing the new genre. Later on, Brooklyn drill rappers became less original and everyone began sounding the same, but people who were different stood out. When Pop Smoke started, he didn't really have his own unique style yet, but after he made Welcome to the Party and came with a different flow, he distinguished himself from basically everybody out. And this is a big reason he was the one to blow up. Fivio Foreign also found his own unique style, which was a big reason Big Drip took off the way it did. On the other side, Coach the Ghost and Freshie the General also had their own unique styles as well. Bronx drill rappers borrowed heavily from Brooklyn when it came to their style. They created a couple of their own unique ad-libs and phrases, but for the most part, they got a lot from Brooklyn. But there is still a handful of unique Bronx artists. Arguably the most unique out of everybody would be Dthang because his voice, flows, and ad-libs don't really sound like anybody else. Lee Drilly also has a very unique flow and a more unique sound, choosing to rap on faster beats than the typical drill rapper. Sha Ek's flow and delivery also stand out. Outside of these rappers, as far as rapping goes, Bronx drill is very repetitive. K-Flock was the best at making songs with this more generic flow, and he had the voice and reputation as well, so all of these factors allowed him to distinguish himself and take over the movement. There's also an interesting trend of rappers rapping the same as everybody else, but changing their voice to stand out, doing what many fans refer to as the Batman voice, and the most extreme examples of this are Yus Gz and Blockwork. Overall, Brooklyn had more original rappers and came up with the formula of New York rap style, so this category goes to Brooklyn. For the Bronx, the energy of the music is a huge reason for its success. The majority of Bronx drill is straight anger and aggression. The rappers are loud, screaming all types of catchphrases before the song even starts, ad-libs throughout the song, and dancing in every video, and the majority of beats are high energy and up-tempo. Brooklyn drill has high energy tracks as well, like Big Ops America and Blicky in the Box, but overall it's more laid back, dark, and menacing. If there was a soundtrack to a movie, Brooklyn drill would be the music at night when the car pulls around the block slowly with the lights off, and Bronx drill would be the music playing when people hop out and start chasing people down. So for energy, this category goes to the Bronx. This category is title entertainment, but what's going on in these movements is real life, and obviously much deeper than the fact that people find it interesting. There are real mothers grieving, real people in graves, and many involved in this life are behind real prison bars. It just so happens that real life tends to produce some of the best stories. For years, real life events like these have reached the masses in the form of documentaries, but drill culture has transformed into a way to broadcast these stories in real time through music and social media as entertainment for the fans. And in the present day, the entertainment value around the drill scene is almost more important than the music. In Brooklyn drill, there was a lot going on. Fights in court on live, people getting beat up, people getting cut, back and forth shit talking on live, and of course all of this is in the actual music. The scene was extremely active, but in the Bronx, somehow it's even crazier. In Brooklyn, music-wise, there were two main sides, but in current Bronx drill, there's 4 and counting if you include Sugar Hill as part of Bronx drill. Groups are consistently falling out with each other and beefing, and their beef is much more public. Despite being enemies, everybody's in close contact and literally blocks away. There are multiple sets of cousins on rival sides. All the rappers go live with each other to argue on a regular basis. They name drop and diss way more than prime Brooklyn drill rappers, and it's regular to hear 5 to 10 deceased names in a typical song. Even inside groups, there's fighting going on and rappers falling out and dissing people from the same side as them. All of this activity draws a lot of attention, especially from law enforcement, and both Brooklyn and Bronx drill have seen gang takedowns and rappers catching cases, most likely expedited by the music and social media. Because the Bronx has the crazier scene, it has had it much worse, and in the past 2 years, it's had 2 big gang takedowns and a RICO case. K-Flock, Dthang, Sugar Hill Keem, and Lee Drilly were all the faces of their respective groups, and they're all looking at years behind bars. Bando and Nazi BK were also big, and they too find themselves incarcerated. The activity of the Bronx drill scene has had a lot of negative consequences, but it has kept the fans glued in, and the drama is definitely the biggest factor behind the popularity of Bronx drill, and it definitely wins in this category. Bronx drill has caught a lot of attention, and the top songs are doing tens of millions of views. It was the driving force behind why Getting Sturdy got popular, and basically all of the biggest channels in the hip-hop storytelling niche have covered it. But despite all the attention on the Bronx, Brooklyn drill was more mainstream. K-Flock had the potential, but he didn't get a chance to actually touch the mainstream. But both Pop Smoke and Fivio Foreign were able to do so. You can clearly see the difference in the view counts between their biggest songs and the biggest Bronx songs. While he was alive, he was a rising star, but after his death, Pop Smoke became a global icon and reached a mainstream level that no other drill artist besides Chief Keef has ever made it to. A level that might never be reached again by another drill artist. Fivio Foreign obviously wasn't nearly as big as Pop Smoke, but he has still made his way into the mainstream, and even though he isn't nearly as big as he used to be, he still has 3 times as many monthly listeners as K-Flock. So this category goes to BK. Brooklyn drill was definitely bigger, which is fitting because it was the inspiration behind Bronx drill. This is the breakdown over all the categories, but who's better is still subjective. But one thing's for certain, both movements have made a big impact on New York City as a whole.